Hi, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Susan Lynn. I'm a psychic and a medium. Today, I'm going to be answering your questions that you posed for the spirit guides to answer. So if you're new here, I'm going to be channeling these answers. I'm about 60% my spirit guides, 40% Susan. So it's what I would call a light channel. So Susan is still the part of me, the consciousness part of me is still here. And I'm going to be kind of translating what the spirit guides are saying. So they might show me pictures, or they give me words, ideas, thoughts, all kinds of things like that. And I'm going to compile it, hopefully, into a sentence that makes sense. So let's get started. First question is from Deb Bicane, and Deb says she really respects Katie Porter and was thrilled when Katie Porter decided to run for senator for California. But now we have Adam Schiff, who is equally impressive. I feel Adam will end up winning. That's what she feels. And we will lose two great congressional members. This is true. I agree with everything you're saying, Deb. I think that Adam will likely pull out a win. It's kind of unfortunate because Katie is going to expend a lot of energy and cash running against Adam, and I do think that it's close enough of a race that she's going to want to do it. I don't think she's going to back down from doing it. In other words, I don't think she's going to drop off. But I do see Adam Schiff winning. Now, so your question is, how is this going to work out if we lose two congressional seats? Because Katie just won her congressional seat, and in the congressional seat she won was redistricted, and it was redistricted to be more moderate, closer to Republican than Democrat. So your question is, will we keep those seats? I assume. Will we keep Adam Schiff's seat in Congress? I'm hearing yes. And will Katie keep her seat, or will, yes, Deb, they're saying those seats are ours. Thank God. They're saying those seats are blue. So that's what's going to happen. That's good news, because you never know. I will tell you guys, I'm going to tell you what the guides are going to tell me. And I already know they've already said things that pee me off, that piss me off. So I just have to tell you what they say. Okay. So Sue H says, yet another person has died from bad policing. Tyree Nichols, do I see the guides see the future of the policing? What is the future of policing? Well, yeah, this is really horrible. It's heartbreaking. It's beyond heartbreaking. It's very hard for us that are empaths, especially, to see this just continue to happen. I do see federal level reforms in policing. You know, it's interesting. The spirit guide showed me yesterday that this really began after 9/11. That's what they're telling me, is police departments got Homeland Security money. They got Homeland Security type training. You now see police officers wearing riot gear when you never saw them wearing riot gear. The whole mentality of police officer training has changed. It's much more like combat. It's much more like what you would learn in the Marines or in the Army or in the infantry. And indeed, a lot of these police officers are from the military. So this makes sense to them. But you're going to see this. You're going to see legislature. You're going to see legislative action is what they're saying. Legislative action that's going to curtail, put guardrails around policing. Now, I don't know how that's going to look. I don't know how that's going to come about, but I can see it happening. Okay. Now, I don't think I see it this year, but you also have to realize that this year is the year that everything is going to change, that the Republicans are going to get their comeuppance, that a lot of charges, indictments are going to come down. And towards the end of this year, I see the House of Representatives being very different. Now, we may not have a majority, but the people, the Republicans that are in the House of Representatives will be more moderate in their voting. They're going to get their butt handed to them, is basically what I just heard Spirit say. They're going to be chastised, and they're going to realize that the American people don't want this. The American people don't want this type of police brutality. So you're going to see some changes, absolutely. But I think those changes will probably come in next year. They're calling it, instead of a bottom up, it's a top down. The solution is top down. So maybe the top means Congress and law, or the DOJ, or police chiefs. I'm not sure, but it's top down solution. Thank you for your question. Star Sapphire says, how do those of us who don't believe that guns are a solution to anything contribute to the energy of mass shootings? And what is the best way we can contribute to an end to this insanity? So you're saying, I don't believe, Star Sapphire, that we're contributing to the energy of mass shootings, except for the fact that maybe our worry, our anxiety contributes to the overall anxiety that's permeating the energy of our United States. And that anxiety makes police officers trigger happy. And that anxiety makes people that get pulled over anxious. So that's a bad combination. And I would say, you want to know, how can we contribute to end to the insanity? What we can do, I mean, we've done what we can do. We voted, right? We got busy. We voted. We supported whoever was running in our local offices. And now what I think the guides are saying is, okay, it starts here. It starts with us in our body. So oftentimes we pray for we pray for Ukraine. We pray for an external person or situation that's sending the energy externally out. And the guides are saying it actually starts in here. So what they would have us do is to keep that energy in our body. So it's sort of like building a fire. You build the fire slowly, and you kindle it, and you build it, and then it gets bigger, right? Like that. So that's what they're saying for us to do. So they're just saying it starts here, and then it radiates out. And that's the most effective way to send energy out. So if you do want to pray for Ukraine, or you do want to pray for Memphis, or you do want to pray for Tyrese's family, or any of these people that have been the victims of either policing gone wrong or shootings or violence, instead of making it a mental thing and praying out, stay in your body, bring the energy in your body, build it up, build it up, build it up, and then send that prayer out. And it's going to have a much bigger effect. It's going to be boosted in that way. All right. Thank you, Star Sapphire. Appreciate it. Holly says, will Hakeem Jeffries become speaker this year? So, Holly, right now, this is the end of January 2023. And I'm getting a yes and a no. So that means to me that it's not settled. Now, initially I got no. I don't see right now, I don't see us flipping enough of those seats due to charges or indictments having to do with Jan 6 or other things in the House for us to get those seats as Democratic seats, because the Republicans are going to run those. If an office is vacated in the House, there's an election. So we're not going to win all of them. I think there might be 5 or 6 seats, honestly. We're not going to win all of them. So what I see is almost, again, like a 50-50 split, or maybe a 51-49. So if we get 51-49, then yes, Hakeem Jeffries will be speaker. But right now the energy is a little too up in the air for me to say with 100% certainty. But it looks like there could be two events. It looks like there's an event that can happen either in late spring or early summer, and some House members are removed or stepped down. That's the first kind of wave of it. And then there's another thing that happens towards August, September. And that one is even bigger. What they had showed me in the past was some people might get charged in early spring, early summer, or late spring, early summer. But of course, they're not going to be going to court for months. And if you're charged, you don't have to step down. It's up to you. And of course, we know the Republicans don't have the respect of the office to step down. So I think that also has to do with that. Some of them may step down, the majority won't. So we'll have some replace then, and then more replace in the fall. So I think there's a real good possibility that Hakeem Jeffries becomes speaker in the fall, even towards the end of this year. And that's pretty exciting, to be honest with you. I mean, after all we've been through, there's light at the end of the tunnel, and we're actually seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, which is pretty amazing. Thank you for your question. Dawn says, where do the guides think Florida Governor DeSantis will end up? Now, I don't know, y'all know me. I've got my spirit guides who are like my crack political team. They're over here on my right. And of course, I still have Edward R. Murrow, who is not part of that team. He is very much his own person. But when I read this question, I get this guide that has a sense of humor, and that's not typical when I do political readings. But this guide keeps telling me he's going to end up in the swamp. In the swamp. So I think there's more to it than humor, right? What is in the swamp? A lot of things that can eat you. A lot of things that are not kind to humans. I mean, even just the mosquitoes alone could take you out, right? But then you have snakes, you have alligators, you have a lot of things that are pretty not nice to humans. So I think that's also a metaphor. He's going into the swamp. Now, that also means he's hapless. He's helpless and hapless. I don't think he can swim. I mean, either he's in quicksand, or it just doesn't feel like he can swim. It feels like his arms are down by his side, and he's just maybe he's afraid to move because movement kind of calls alligators to you. So maybe he's trying to be a tree stump. I don't know. But he's going to be in the swamp. Now, I will say also, Dawn, that the spirit guides have been saying for many, many months, DeSantis in 2023, so they've been saying this since 2022, DeSantis is a goner. He's going to step down. He's got problems with money and a washing machine, if you understand what that means, right? This is going to become evident. This is going to become known. And for him, I believe he will step down, because I feel like the potential charges coming at him are quite serious. And I don't think he just doesn't want to be governor and fight these charges. Most Republicans find safety. They find safety in their elected official position. But for some reason, DeSantis wants to go and hide. He's not like Trump in the sense that he can look like an idiot and be embarrassed publicly. He cares about that part of his image. Now, I mean, you guys would say, well, he should be embarrassed then, but he believes the stuff he's espousing. He believes that it's true or that it's the right course of action. Okay. If it was found out that he did something very criminal and there were very criminal charges being levied against him, and he knew that the gig was up, he would walk. So that's what I see. I see him leaving office, basically. Thank you, Dawn. Luminous Lightwork says the GOP has now squared off with Biden on who can make the greatest beneficial changes to Social Security. And you say this is a huge win for seniors. How much of a change? I didn't know the GOP was championing good changes for Social Security, and that's what you're implying here. But I will just say to you that I have seen the guides have spoken about raises for Social Security. We're not going to be raising the age limit anymore. We are going to be raising the amount of money that seniors get. There's just going to be a lot more stability in Social Security, and there's going to be more, it's going to be more abundant for those people drawing on Social Security. And there's assurances for people that are, say, 45 to 60, that their whole life they've been told Social Security won't even be there for you, right? So there's assurances that Social Security will be there. So it feels like the administration and or whoever's in charge of our Congress and Senate are doubling down on protecting Social Security. Now, as far as like how much the raise is, I just heard 10 to 15% more. Now, Social Security just got a raise. Now, I know you're way behind, but I just heard another 10 to 15%, potentially even next year. So I think that's really good news. And it's even better news if the GOP is finally championing Social Security instead of trying to cut it. I didn't know that, but I do see good things for Social Security. So that's good. Thank you for your question. Bitsy says, can the guides tell us about the arrest of the former FBI agent, Charles McGonigal? And he wasn't just an agent. He was a director, I believe, of the New York office, or a director of one of the sections of the New York office. So your question is, how will the arrest of Charles McGonigal last week play into the investigations of Trump, Ukraine, the agenda of the GOP, etc.? This arrest seems incredibly important. It'd be great to hear about coming result. So McGonigal, again, this man had a very high level job. And the best article I've read yet has been from Business Insider. So this guy, to have such a high level FBI job, he was incredibly sloppy, just incredibly sloppy. His girlfriend, whom was not his wife, he has a wife who didn't know about his girlfriend. His girlfriend knew about his wife and, of course, wanted him to leave his wife, and he had teenage kids. But you know how that goes. Well, his girlfriend is the one who reported him. She's the one that turned him in because he broke up with her. But the girlfriend has connections to Rudy Giuliani. So now you have to understand that Rudy Giuliani is still in connection with Trump, who's still in connection with Russia. So this was a hit job. This was a hit job, folks. An internal hit job. I don't. And it's not going to go the way anybody thinks it's going to go. So they're showing me, like, if you have ever in your life played pool and you hit the ball, and instead of the ball, the white ball, going and hitting the other balls, this ball's just going to go sideways. Or if you play golf and the ball goes sideways, this is not going down the way anybody thinks it's going down, including McGonagall. So whoever arranged for this man to be found out, and they think that they're manipulating this, they're wrong. You know, they're just wrong. So I would say to you right now that McGonagall, I'm a little bit worried about McGonagall's safety right now. I think that there's a period of time that we should be concerned about his safety. And I think that that might be in the next month to 2 months. His safety is really at risk because, again, when these people find out that he isn't going to do the thing that they thought he was going to do or have the effect that they thought he was going to have, he's really then a potential hazard to them. And interestingly enough, I see Jack Smith going like this. Yeah, now we're getting somewhere. So Jack Smith is quite happy. Jack Smith is like a cat that somebody's bringing a mouse to. He's quite happy to have this. This actually really helps his case quite a bit. So I'm not sure the reason why all that went down, but McGonagall is going to have an effect. Now, he's not the linchpin. He's not the thing that knocks all the other pins over. There's way more that's already known, that's already in process. This is just an extra. If we needed extra evidence to be sure of our case, this is the extra evidence. McGonagall is going to turn state's witness because he has to. He knows how this works. He's going to do it. Well, okay, so first of all, he's not going to do it because he's terrified for his life. And then he's going to realize that it doesn't really matter if he goes state witness or not. His life is meaningless to those people. So meaningless in a bad way. So then he'll eventually turn state's witness. And it's all going to come out. It's out, you guys. This information is out. It's just that the powers that be. Let's talk about Garland. Garland has wanted to have a complete open and shut case where it's just done. It's just done, right? He wants it to be perfect. And that's why he's taking so long, so that it can be perfect. But it's not going to be perfect because, again, the guides have told you guys, the cure should not kill the patient. The cure should not kill the patient. So the United States is the patient. And if they keep following the thread from Trump to this person to that person, then back to actual countries, which McGonagall represents, then what do we do then? How do we, is that an act of war? Having a country steal your election? Where does that fit? We don't know as a country how we feel about that. We've not experienced this. We've never had a hostile takeover of our country by another country. And frankly, that's what's happened. So Garland is literally pulling his hair out going, okay, what do I do? This is unprecedented. He doesn't like unprecedented things. He likes to follow the rules. There are no rules where he's at. There are no precedents. And that's why he's literally frozen. So that's why he brought in Jack Smith. Jack Smith is going to package it all up, put in a little report with a little bow on it, and give it to Garland. And even then, in my opinion, reading the energy and talking to my spirit guides, Garland is not likely to act. Spirit guides have told you guys this. Remember? The 4 arrows, 100 archers shoot their arrows at Trump. 95 miss. 4 gain their mark. Fani Willis, E. Jean Carroll, Tish James, Garland. But Garland comes in last. Fani Willis is going to take him out at the knees like a linebacker. Period. End of story. She's ready to. She's already got her grand jury getting ready to be seated. She is going to press charges against the president, a president of the United States of America, a past president of the United States of America, unprecedented in this way, because she's going to press RICO charges against him. And that is coming. That is coming in February, and if not February, March. So the grand jury, she might take him to court in February, and they may literally have a decision by March or April. So when all these people keep telling you guys something big is happening in March, this is one of the things we're talking about. So that's kind of how it's all playing out, if that makes any sense to you guys. Thank you for the question. Mallory Stanny says, and I think we just answered this question, but your question is, the guides have been talking about a flip the table moment where the old order will be challenged and the new energy of love will finally make itself heard. Politically speaking, what will this look like? Can we expect to see new leaders or new policies? Will it be a gradual system-wide shift, or will there be one particular tipping point, and when will it happen? Wow, you're full of a lot of good questions. Okay, so the flip the table moment, because to me, energetically and visually, when I see it, it's sudden and it's sudden and it's complete. It's not like the table gets flipped slowly. The table gets flipped and it's sudden and it's a big deal. And the word is catastrophic. Now, I don't think it's catastrophic for the United States because, again, we don't want to kill the patient, but it is catastrophic for the Republican Party. And so what this will look like, I see, is what they alluded to, what I just talked about. There seems to be 2 energy points. I don't know if the actual flipping of the table, I feel like right now the flipping of the table is probably going to happen in March. I think that's when everybody gets an indictment. Everybody gets a visit, from law enforcement. And, that puts you on notice. You are now on notice. You are now being charged. You're being charged with XYZ. And I feel like we could have 5 or 6 House members and maybe 1 or 2 Senate people along with other people. So maybe let's bring it down to 3 House, because there's going to be the 1 and the 2. Remember, there's one set of charges that happens first and then a second set later in the year. I think, let's say 3, at least 3, but I really think it could be as many as 5 or 6. So that's kind of the flipping of the table, getting that notice that you've been charged. Now, of course, you lawyer up and you have to wait for the legal system to, move you through that process, which is very slow. We already see that with the Jan 6. It's a very slow process. It's meant to keep people from being railroaded, right? It's meant to give you time to learn about the case and get your own attorney, and you're innocent until proven otherwise, right? So these are good things, to be honest with you. But that's the flipping of the table. So that scares the establishment, and it could scare the stock market. I mean, it could be it's a flipping of the table, you guys. It's almost a violent in its energetic upheaval. Okay. So that's the first thing that happens. And then after that, I see this period of time over the summer where there's just, anxiety is so strong. I feel like I want to grit my teeth. Like I can't do anything about what I'm feeling. So I'm going to grit my teeth. That kind of feeling as we go through the summer. And also just a lot of like your stomach, like twisting. So that's what I feel. Now, the end result is that, and this is all free will, but this is what the energy is suggesting to me. And this is what my spirit guides are showing me that's going to happen. The end result is that these people are literally removed from Congress. Or they either step down or they're removed. And the end result is the GOP being chastised. And maybe a few Democrats. I mean, honestly, you know, and I know that you agree with me that if you're crooked, we don't care if you're a D or an R, you got to go. The end of story. If you've done a crime, then you're convicted, then you need to pay for that crime. So after that happens, you have a contrite body of Congress. You have a very contrite body of Congress. Now, I will say that the Democrats, and especially the Democratic leadership, are doing everything they can to not smirk. I'm not kidding. It's almost like preening of feathers. Like they're just like, yeah, that wasn't too hard. You know, that's kind of how the leadership looks and feels. They're trying not to gloat, to be honest with you. They know what's coming down the pike. They know because they know that justice has to be had, but they also know because they got the inside scoop. So then towards the end of the year, I see this contrite, almost pandering. It's kind of smarmy and sick because I don't trust these Republicans, and they're almost sucking up. You know what I mean? They're almost going to the American people. Oh, we know what we've done. And, you know, because the people that are still left in Congress feel like they dodged a bullet. And they have that kind of energy about them of almost being obsequious, you know, of pandering. Okay, look, we know that we let these foxes get in the hen house and we're real sorry. And now we know we're going to protect you. We're going to work with the Democrats. You know, we're going to have this kumbaya. Everybody's going to hold hands and sing, and which is a crock of you know what, because these people aren't serious. They just got the you know what scared out of them. So now they're going to act nice. But it will work for us. We'll take it. We'll take it. So that's how it's going to end. You're going to see more bipartisanship. Now, I want to say sadly, because Susan wants to say sadly, I do see the Democrats because they're always trying to, in my opinion, they're always trying to cross the aisle and be conciliatory. I see the Democrats moving a little to the right to kind of meet the Republicans. You know what I mean? Which is really going to irritate me. But anyway, that's what I see. I see more bipartisanship. I see more a calming. It's almost like the fever's going to break. The nation is feverish. We're sweating. We've got chills. We're sick. We're sick. Fever's going to break. And then we're going to feel lucky to be alive. You know, that's the energy of the Republicans. They feel lucky to not be going to prison. So that's kind of how I see it playing out. I hope that makes sense. All right. Thank you for your question. Star Hawk says, what is the outlook for home mortgages and interest rates? Will the feds get it lowered anytime soon? Well, no. I have not been worried about a coming recession. The guides have told me there's not a coming recession, but now I'm starting to get a little concerned with the fact that China is undergoing its first pandemic, its first real outbreak. And all of those factories are going to be working at much less capacity, which is going to bring much less goods to the United States, which is going to keep prices high, which is going to keep inflation high, which is going to keep the feds from lowering the rates. So we were doing fine. And I got to give credit where credit is due. I don't agree with them raising the mortgage rates, but I will tell you that our economy was a runaway train on a train track that hugged a mountain with a cliff on one side, and the train was literally out of control. So there's very hard to bring a train that's out of control on a single track on the side of a mountain with curves, hairpin turns and curves. That's just insane. And I think they've done a pretty good job of really bringing it slowly down. And what they were hoping for was like a soft crash landing. Well, this China stuff, it really complicates things. It really does. So I'm not sure that the rates are going to be coming down the way I thought they would. And we just have to see. We have to see how this China thing affects the world. So best case scenario, they just showed me best case scenario is that they're down to 5%, 5.3% by the end of the year. I don't know what it is now. I think it's over that, but that's best case scenario. I could be wrong, guys. This energy could change. The energy is literally crazy right now. It's literally going in every different direction. There's no consensus of the energy in most situations. So that's just what I get. We'll see. We'll have to kind of see. I'll have to kind of see how China handles this and how big it gets. But all indications for me is that it's going to be big. And if you need to buy something that has a big component that China makes, like a laptop or a phone or even a car, housing, buying a new house with all the materials, nails, things like that, you really ought to think about buying it now or in the next 6 months, because if that hits China the way I feel like it's going to hit China, we could have spikes in the prices that are just really big. Okay. Thank you for your question. Lynn D says, how long will it take for women to get our rights back in the US? I assume you're talking about choice of having our right to choose over our own bodies. I just heard 18 months. Now that's a long time. And I tried to convince them that they really meant 8 months or August. And they corrected me and they said, no, we meant 18 months. So 24, like mid 20 or 25. Oh, God. Let me ask them a different way. How about the right to a safe and legal abortion? When will women have a right to a safe and legal abortion? Okay, they said 24 next year. I wish it were sooner. I hope I'm wrong. Okay, I really hope I'm wrong. It's just, there's a lot of we're feverish, is what the guide said. We're sick. We can't seem to do the most basic things to take care of our people. We can't seem to outlaw assault rifles. I mean, it's just our train is run off the tracks. So it's going to take a little while to put it back on the tracks. Okay, Ron Brock says, will Trump starting his campaign cause any delay in him being indicted for his crimes? Yeah, no. He thinks it will, and they're doing everything they can. By McCarthy taking Adam Schiff off of the committee that would investigate the whole Russian angle. They're doing everything they can, but it's too little too late is what the spirit guides are saying. This isn't going to help him at all. Well, what it will do is it lines his coffers. I mean, he does make money when he goes on his little junkets. So he is grifting, he's making money, but it's not going to help his legal standing at all. End of story. That's good. And then your second question is, do you and the guides see Ukraine beating Russians in their country anytime soon? Hopefully the flow of Western tanks and arms into their country will make a difference. Yes. Ukraine has been in a dark, dark night of the soul. I mean, for the past year, but specifically between, well, January, specifically this last month has just been some of the worst, to be honest with you. So yes, it's there again is a big energy change this spring. They're using the word rout. The guides are using the word rout. The Ukrainians will rout the Russians. I see them being pushed back into their own borders. I see like spears pushing the Russians back into their own borders. This also means Crimea and the Donbass. It means all of that part of Ukraine that was annexed by Russia is going to go back to Ukraine. I do see this, and I do think that we will see we'll have good news. It's not the end of the war, but we're going to have really good news, encouraging news, they want to say, in June. Encouraging news in June. And then people are saying, is Putin dead? And whenever I ask them, they say he's inert, which means basically could be dead. It could also be drugged, or it could be ineffectual, right? Inert, meaning like inactive. He's inactive. He's not active. And I'm getting my head. I don't want to get into that energy, but I do want to say that the guide said when all this whole thing started, I have 3 videos on Ukraine that you can watch, and everything the guide said has basically come right into line, timeline, everything has been right into line with what's happened. I will tell you that the energy suggests that there is some sort of general who takes over. And if he's not a general, he's a puppet of the general, but there's a general energy, like a military general energy that takes over. The country will have to be put on some kind of military lockdown, martial law, because it's going to fall apart. It's literally going to fall apart. It's starting to fall apart right now. They're starting to be infighting. The Russian contractors are fighting against the army, who's fighting against the elite militaries. They're all arguing with each other. So this is Putin's days are numbered. The last time I did a video, I called him Dead Man Walking. This was about 2 or 3 weeks ago. The guides called him Dead Man Walking. I mean, he's basically, his days are numbered. If he would potentially flee, he has sent his family to South America, or some of his chosen family. And he would flee if he could, only because look at Netanyahu. I mean, look at these people who go out of power and come back into power. So if he can stay alive, it means he has another opportunity to come back into power. I don't see that happening either. It's a one-way street for him. He's gone. So I think the best thing that we can hope for is this general energy takes over Russia, and there's a truce. And I do see Ukraine starting to. So when Ukraine routs Russia and they push him back over the border, Ukraine follows them over the border. So Ukraine starts literally attacking Russia in Russia. And that's when Russia says, uncle. Now, the other thing that you want to know is the guides talked about this, and it already happened once, but it's starting to happen again. Putin knows he can't win, so now he's going to the West, meaning, Germany or whoever will listen to him, and saying, We need to work out a deal. Okay. We need to end this war. And you heard, you might not have heard, but Trump's son, Trump Jr., Don Jr., just said this, that look, Ukraine needs to stop attacking Russia and then it would be over and then everybody's good. Give Russia the annexed parts of the country that they had before. No harm, no foul. Well, that's a bunch of malarkey. It's never going to happen. Never going to happen. Zelensky will never let it happen. The Ukrainians will never let it happen. That's their land. They've lost too many people. They've been pulverized. And by God, they're going to get every last square inch of their land back. And then they're going to march into Russia and find those kids that were kidnapped. It doesn't stop at the end of the war. They will march into Russia and they will find those kids. I'm telling you, and Biden will 100% back them up. The West is not going to fall for this. The West isn't going to say, yes, you should just end the war and take what you can get because there's been too much killing. The West is behind Ukraine. End of story. So that's kind of an update on Ukraine, and absolutely the F-16s, the tanks, the artillery, all of that stuff that's flowing into Ukraine as we speak right now is going to be a big turning point for Ukraine. So it's, I just pray for them. They've been through unimaginable hell. Okay. F Phantom or Phantom says, have they said anything about the situation in Atlanta? I think they talking about my spirit guides. They approved a massive police training facility and protesters have been charged with domestic terrorism. Well, if you guys live in Atlanta, I just need you to hear me, and I need you to understand that the spirit guides have been calling Atlanta ground zero back in the fall of 22. And I didn't understand what ground zero meant. I thought maybe it meant that Fani Willis, what Fani Willis was doing was going to be ground zero. It's not just Fani Willis. It's not just this despicable things that are happening with this police land that they're building. It's everything. It just seems like, in many ways, Ukraine was the depository for all of the energy around authoritarianism. We are battling bully and authoritarian and dictatorship and oligarchy and all of those forms of despicable government. All of that is being waged through the fight with Russia and Ukraine. It's like all the energies of all the countries have poured into that, and that's where that energy is settled. I really feel like the energy of this Jan 6, of this dismantling of a foreign country attacking our country and trying to overturn our elections, I feel like that energy seems to be pooling around Atlanta for some reason. I don't know why, but I would just tell you, be very careful if you live in Atlanta. Seriously, I'm just being honest with you. I think we're going to see a lot of protest in Atlanta, more than you're already seeing. And I don't think it's going to go well. I think that there's a real potential there for power gone awry, even more so than you're already seeing. Okay. Now, the other thing is Bill Barr went around the country, and I talked about this 2 years ago. He went around the country and he went to little police departments and he did it in LA, and LA said, no, thank you. And then he tried to go to some smaller police departments. But what he did was he deputized some sheriffs and some police officers as federal officers. Now, why did he do that? Well, he said he did it because crime was rampant. And it all started out with this case in St. Louis, Missouri. And they even named it after this little boy that was killed. You know how they don't really care about anything, but they use that as the poster child. And they said, we have a real problem with violence, so we need to get these police officers to be federal agents. Now, what happens is if you're having a peaceful march and you get arrested by one of these officers that happens to be deputized as a federal agent, you're charged with a federal crime. Not a state crime, a federal crime. And that's why they did this, because they knew that there would be unrest. Barr knew there would be unrest, and he knew that if we start charging these people with federal crimes, then they're out of commission. I mean, it's going to chill. It's going to have a chilling effect, right? It's one thing to go down to the jail, not to spend 24 hours in jail, or even just get booked in and booked out on a misdemeanor, and or have the judge throw out your case because you were arrested under, unlawful pretenses. But when you're arrested by the feds, that's a whole different thing. It costs a lot of money to fight that. So that's why this is happening. That's why they're arresting people on federal charges, because that's not a federal situation. That's a state situation. So how are these people being arrested on federal charges? That's how. And I can't remember the little boy's name. I'll try to put it in the thing, but they used his name and they called it the something act. The little boy's name and the act. It's nuts. And it can get you down. So I know that everything crazy is going on right now. I know that. I'm aware of it. And you just have to understand that we are a feverish patient. We have chills. We're out of our mind. We're talking gibberish. We're sweating. We're chilled all at the same time. We're not well. But the fever's going to break. And then we're going to come out of our hallucination and we're going to be okay. But right now, not so good. Okay. Thank you for your question. Just be careful, guys. All I can tell you is be careful. I'm not going to tell you not to protest because I think in some ways we need to. But you need to have body cameras. You need to have GoPros. You need to have cell phones. You need to be with 5 other people all the time. Don't even walk to your car by yourself. Never be alone. If you have 5 video cameras pointing at that officer, you're going to have a lot better opportunity to get out of that bind. Okay? Okay. Thank you for your question. John White says, who will be president of the United States on January 21st, 2025? So I know inauguration is the 20th. Let's give it 24 hours because we've been through some things. We know some things. So who is going to be president in 25? That's interesting. Right now, I would say Kamala Harris is going to be president. This energy is not sorted. You guys don't know what we're getting ready to go through. We're getting to go through things that people will write entire volumes of history about. The next 6 months will be like not 6 years, maybe 6 decades worth of shock and awe. And so who we are on the other end of that is kind of hard for me to know right now. But Kamala Harris right now is who I see as president. But it could change. We are really at the precipice of some really major changes. Okay. Really major changes. And they're good changes. Don't get me wrong, but it also means the landscape has completely changed. Okay. A big shakeup. Valerie Sargent says, my question is, did Merrick Garland bring Jack Smith into the investigation knowing that there were other countries and crimes involved in this tangled web? Is this leading to a charge so big we haven't picked up on it yet? Yeah, that's what I just talked about was, charging a president. Nixon stepped down. I think there is one president that got charged in our history, but let's just say that this is a big deal. This is bigger. This is bigger than they want it to be. They don't want it to kill the patient. Remember, the cure shouldn't kill the patient. They would really rather Trump just go away and not make a bunch of problems. And they honestly would rather Fani Willis not be such a, go-getter, because she's the one that's going to force Garland to do something, because she doesn't even care what Garland's doing or not doing. She doesn't care. She doesn't think about him. She's got her radar locked on Trump and his cronies and his associates and a RICO. She doesn't give a snap what Garland's doing, and she will go a lot further than Garland will. But believe me. So I think Garland, and I've said this many times, I see Fani Willis, E. Jean Carroll, Tish James, all lined up. There's Trump looking at them. They're looking at Trump. Fani is in the first position. E. Jean Carroll's in second. Tish James is in third. Then I see Garland reach over their heads, grab Trump, and snatch him and say, no, he's mine. Federal charges. Trump, your charges. But I'm going to be honest with you and say, if we would just let Fani have at him, she would take him out and probably about 25 other people. I think Garland is going to take Trump out, but I don't think he's going to go as deep into those RICO charges as she would. Now, when he's done, don't underestimate this woman. She's patient. She'll wait. Just about the time everybody thinks all the damage is done and the smoke is starting to clear, she'll slap a bunch of indictments on people. So, yeah, there's big things coming, Valerie. Big things. And it's going to be unsettling, and it's going to frighten the stock market. It's going to frighten, the Republicans and the powers that be. And luckily we have a president who's very calm, and he can calm the country down. But it is going to, it's going to frighten the fragile white males running around out there. And it's going to frighten their women, sadly. So it's a lot going on. Lynn Blasso says, when Adam Schiff becomes a senator, who will take his seat in Congress? Will it remain a Democrat? Yes, it will remain a Democrat. Ava Dillon says, why did Facebook let 45 back on? Money. This man makes a lot of money off of Facebook. Those are his people. And Facebook gets a nice big cut of all the money that Trump makes. And that's why they're letting him back on. Now they're using the pretense that he's running for president, right? And they have to be fair. And if somebody's running for president, they have to give that person co-equal opportunity, right? I mean, they always try to seem like they're holier than thou, or they're doing it for the right reasons, right? We know they're not doing it for the right reasons, but they have to seem like they're doing it for the right reasons. So, but it's all about the money. And I think I'm going to close this out and do a part 2. So this is the end of this part of the questions. Thank you so much for sending your questions in. I really appreciate you staying to the end and watching all of this malarkey until the end. And I hope you're taking really good care of yourself. This energy is really punishing. Frankly, it's very hard energy right now. So just really take good care of yourself. Do some grounding. You really want to connect deep into the earth. This energy feels very airy and top heavy and disorienting. So if you can imagine, when someone is top heavy, when all their energy is around their crown chakra or around their head, they get top heavy, which means they have a hard time focusing. So this is the energy that just feels like is around our world right now. So the thing to do is to drink lots of water and to ground yourself. Also, when you have this kind of energy, a lot of times we tend to eat, because eating grounds us. It makes us get close. We feel close to the earth. We feel human. So be aware that you could be overeating because of this energy. So instead of overeating, drink the water and just do a grounding meditation. get your grounding crystal, whatever it is that you want to use, hold it in your receiving hand, your non-dominant hand, or if you're left-handed, it could still be your left hand. You'll have to kind of see and just ground, hold that, let that crystal, kind of boost or enhance your energy as you ground into Mother Earth. Okay? Take really good care, everybody. We'll talk soon, right here on this channel. For entertainment purposes only.